we're still kind of hurting a little bit and expected to still be alive at this point. And I think that's part of my personality and lofty goals and expectations, but also the resources here that we should be playing deeper into June, and the promise to a lot of people, the collaboration effort here that brought me into this situation, and then in some homes and recruiting and so forth, that we're the type of program that, in our mind, we talk about at the beginning of the year that the goal to get to the College World Series and eventually win a national championship, I think, is a realistic, not words, it's something that I think we can achieve here. And the fact that we have not done that in our 6 years is disappointing to me. And then the other side, you step back and look at the body of work of the senior class of the last 4 years, and 44 wins this year, with losing maybe 3 of our most talented players, our Friday and Saturday starter for sure, and then losing Heineman, who's a catalyst offensively. I do know that a lot of people are saying, hey, Coach, you got to realize how well you did do with what you had. So we talk about next duck up and all those kind of things, but the realization part of that is we lost 2 of the best pitchers in America, and they would have most likely been our Friday and Saturday guy. And I think that put a little bit of a stress on our pitchers, our young pitchers, and it affected us a little bit down the stretch.
When you look back at when you're 60, 70 years old, you look back at this year, is Tommy John going to be kind of the thing that sticks out to you, the fact that the lasting memory from this year?
Yeah, that, and like Scott Heineman was poised to have a really big year and put a lot of hay in the barn, so to speak, and had a great summer. And then the fact that he tore his labrum on his left arm swinging a bat is very unusual. Unfortunate for him and for us. And this is a place that's hard to be as deep as you want to be because of the cost of education and the entrance requirements, and families have to make sacrifices. I'm not complaining, but we have different rules than many of the schools in the SEC, ACC. We don't have the lottery academic scholarships. We don't have in-state tuition for people that come here out of state. Again, it's not a complaint. It's just more challenging, and we've got to figure out a way to get a deeper roster so that when the injury bug does hit, which it does hit for everybody, that maybe there's not as significant of a dropout.
The Tommy John thing has been a bit of an epidemic around the country and even into the major leagues. As you and your training staff looked at maybe changing how the training regimen goes, or any exercises or stretches or something to see if maybe that can maybe be mitigated some?
Yeah, we'll look at everything and anything that might decrease the percentages of chance that it might happen to another one of our guys. All the way from how much they throw in the summer, how we start them out and build their arms up, their weight training, their stretching program, the cross training that Coach Stiles and we do in our program. We're going to look at everything and evaluate that. The easy rationalization would be, look, it's happening everywhere. Nothing's wrong with our program. It does give me a little solace that if it was just our program, then I would really, really have a major concern. So I am concerned. I never want to see it happen to another one of our pitchers or players again. And we'll do some self-analysis to see if we can do everything a little bit better, I guess, to prevent that.
How's those guys doing? What's kind of where are they at?
Yeah, I think they're all right. I think Cole Irvin's about a couple weeks from starting to throw a little bit. He won't be on a mound until next fall. His injury was in January, so the typical timeline is 12 months. And if you beat that, good for you. And if it goes a little longer, that's not out of the realm of usual either. And I'd say guys are, in my experience, guys are rocking and rolling normally about 14 months. They can get on the mound, they can compete in 12. Some guys beat it and do very well with it, but I think the norm is about 14 months. So unfortunately, Crooks happened later, and
into Pac-12.
it'll be in April, and so it might be the stretch drive that he comes back and can help us, whether it's as a starter or reliever, but it might be more of the stretch drive that Matt Crooks back into on the mound and helping us try to win ball games.
Is his future bright enough that redshirting him doesn't make any sense?
I'll discuss that with him. Yeah, I think that's unless something else were to happen to him, knock on wood that it doesn't, that he's probably we're gonna probably get one more year and a couple months out of him, and away he goes to professional baseball.
What do you expect out of this draft? How hurt do you expect him to be?
I don't know. We're about ready to find out, I guess, at 4 o'clock, and I saw the paper today, and that's probably accurate. And we've probably got 7 or 8 guys that we're sweating out significantly, and we're sweating them all out because we don't recruit crummy players. They're all liable to be drafted. Just some a little higher than others that have a different profile. But until the dust settles on July 18th, is that the deadline? I believe is the signing deadline. So on July 19th, we'll know who we're dealing with. It's kind of crazy. A little later last year, it was July 12th, if my memory serves me well. So we'll have to wait about 6 more days.
Alex Jackson's supposed to be a top 10 pick. Do you have to essentially re-recruit him to try to, see if he still commits to here?
He's got his mom and dad are professionals. They've seeked information from his advisor is Scott Boros, who's one of the best in the industry. The Legacy Group, Greg Genske, is a group that I work with. So most of those kind of guys have great parent counseling. We've counseled them some, we've educated them. And then those advisors, what the real value is there is the education part of it. There's certain things the advisors can't do, the letter of the law, they can't negotiate for them and different things like that. But that's the reason that they seek that advisor, is to give them information about what they should or shouldn't do, or what they should be considering. This is a real exciting time for them, and I think the chances Alex Jackson's most likely going to be a professional unless he slides in the draft a little bit. So that, selfishly, we hope he slides, but because we think the world of Alex Jackson, we hope he gets what he wants. What he wants is to be drafted in the first round and have life-changing money. So we hope, from that aspect, we hope he doesn't slide.
What do you think about your freshmen this year? You asked a lot of guys like Carviotis and Balta and a couple of the pitchers too, Patton, and then Nogo start obviously at the end was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think it was a solid class as it all turned out, especially the way Nogo's freshman year culminated into a great outing against Vanderbilt. Patton was improved and got himself into the weekend hunt. Carviotis, I thought, had a spectacular freshman year. Balta, freshman All-American. Crook was well on his way to maybe being one of the best freshmen in the country, and until the injury bug hit him. So I tip my cap to my workforce, Coach Waz and Coach Ullman, that sometimes you can pad those recruiting classes with fluff and honors and draft status, and this was both. It was a class that came in with high credentials, but also there was some production there. It wasn't just fluff. They actually played pretty well and had a lot to do with us winning 44 games. So the future's really bright from that aspect.
You guys are 6 years into this thing now. Do you guys feel like there's still some speed bumps of being a younger program, or is it something where?
No, we have no excuses now. We'd like to continue to improve the facility in some certain ways. You go to a place like Vanderbilt and you see some of the advantages they have. That I'm not complaining about our facility; it's one of the best in the country. Then you hear about our colleagues improving their facility at Goss and the Ellsbury contribution, and it sounds like they're building something like Vanderbilt had with locker rooms and offices and different things like that. And so hopefully our administration's looking at that, and it's nothing that we don't have that doesn't present us with an opportunity to compete at the highest level. So let's start with that. And so you're looking to improve certain things. We'd like to improve our fan base and the marketing with how many people are actually at our games when the weather turns for the better. And I don't think any of the shortcomings have to do with us being just in my mind, a 6-year program. We should be, we've had our recruiting classes. They've reached to fruition. We're not going to have another 6-year guy in Daryl Hunter. I don't look at ourselves as being a young program anymore. We're up and running and we've got everything we need. So any kind of excuse like that would be just that, would be an excuse.
How surprised are you that the Beavers aren't playing this weekend after seeing them?
Very surprised. I think they are, we are. You always root for the pack. We feel like the fact that I've already said this, that confused why Washington didn't get to host. Pack has got one horse running now, and we hope that Stanford does very well. And it took a West Coast team to knock the Beavers out. Kudos to Coach Gillespie, and he and I go way back. And the Big West has one horse running now, and Pepperdine's still in there. And I've got some friends in the industry and other conferences as well, but 2 of my ex-players are actually working for TCU, but I'm rooting for the West Coast to stand up tall and carry the flag, so to speak. And it's unfortunate the highest end of the pack got eliminated, but there's a lot of parity in college baseball now, and BB Corbats brings close games, and sometimes close games don't go your way, and so there's a reason for that. And the pack has kind of been taking advantage of the BB Core era the last 2 years, and Arizona was a complete team, but certainly UCLA's formula for success was pitching and defense. And so the fact that only 3 of the 8 national seeds are playing this weekend is pretty unusual.
When you give after in your Alex Jack and Derek Hill, even though you know they may not come, do you get a bonus from that other recruits see that, hey, the top guy in the country signed with Oregon tonight on the draft? It's going to say, Jackson who signed with Oregon, this and that. Can there be some carryover, even if those guys don't come, just the top recruits see those guys?
Yeah, I think so. To be honest with you, Steve, that it's good pub. That hey, I was going to go to Oregon, and we'll see how they handle it. I think one of the first ones that was on the show was Tyler Matzik, who signed for 2.9, and he was pretty brass. And what he said is, if the Rockies don't come up with it, I'm going to Oregon. I'm not sure Alex will say the same thing, or Derek will say the same thing, or we've got some other kids that are potentially surprises in the first round as well. But we don't want them to be brass. We don't want them to take away the exhilaration of being drafted in Major League Baseball. But we'd like them to show the respect that we think we deserve too, and Coach Waz and Coach Ullman and myself and the whole staff's effort in recruiting them, and absolutely think it's a small plus that it comes out on that show that they were going to attend the University of Oregon, even if they do sign.
Do you find there's a big difference in how college programs approach those guys? Or there's some schools that'll say, this guy's going to the draft, we're just not going to recruit him?
Yeah, some guys just say, no, we're not going to go dance in that arena. We choose to. The part of that that's difficult is you need to back yourself up. So, in other words, Derek Hill can't be the only center fielder that we have recruited or planned for next year. Otherwise, you end up holding the bag, so to speak, and then you're awful. We actually have, when you hit the cycle where everything goes against you, then your roster's a little shaky. And then when you hit the jackpot and get them all, you got a chance to be pretty good. And I've had all kinds of those examples happen to me over the years, where there was a couple thin years at Fullerton where the quality of our roster declined because of the amount of those kind of guys that signed. And actually the year that I came up here, we hit the jackpot. We had Christian Colon and Gary Brown and a guy named Redfern that we had normal years, they would be going to school, and they all stayed. And it was pretty hard for me to walk away from those young men. Gary and Christian ended up being first-round draft choices tremendous college baseball players. So I would think that same thing would have happened if I stayed there, of course, and maybe even better. Maybe we would have done more with them. But you know, the one thing for sure is if you don't sign those guys to a letter of intent, then like Matt Crook, for example, somebody else signed him. He's on somebody else's campus. And I think Coach Ullman said out of the first 300 picks last year, and you might have to do some research on this, only 8 didn't sign, and 4 of them were in Pac-12. One was Crook, Wetzler, maybe Schultz. I think those were the first 10 rounds.
He was 17. But one of them was Bickford. You guys faced.
Bickford
Down at
went to Fullerton.
Fullerton.
Coach Ullman was reeling this off, but there was 4 that kind of hit home pretty close to home, 4 of the 8. And so I guess, you know, if you ever want to coach an Alex Jackson, who's one of the complete young men, first of all, families, student, and a tremendous baseball player, if you ever want to coach him, you better sign him, you know. And so Coach Waz is willing to take that chance and put a lot of effort and a lot of time and some resources to get those kind of guys, and that's our master plan. Is you can't base your whole recruiting class on those type of guys, otherwise you're playing Russian roulette. But if you want to get a couple of those kind of guys that make, you know, Michael Conferto, for crying out loud, when I saw him as a junior in high school, he was already committed to the Beavers, but he was special, and the fact that he chose to go to college certainly made a difference in the last 3 years in Corvallis. So Alex is that kind of a player. Dylan Davis is that kind of a player. And there's some in our league that are those kind of players. That Stanford, you know, those 96, 98 mile-an-hour arms that they ran out there, those kind of players. So you need those kind of players to compete with the big boys, I think.
What did you tell your kids in the exit meetings this year?
Well, I didn't go down the pointing the finger that they didn't finish. I think it's collectively all of our responsibility, and ultimately my responsibility when we come up short, injuries or not. It'd be real shallow on my part to point the finger and the responsibility at them. I've kind of done that in years past, complained about the lack of finishing. We did a lot of things differently this year to create an aura of better physicality late. I think that helped. Guys were fresher, longer. And then I think we all wear it together. And like I told them, I'm going to do some soul searching and figure out what we need to improve on, what we need to shore up. And I thank them, quite honestly. I'm not sure in the last 3 years that a group of young people can sacrifice as much as they did. Even when we don't get it done, I thank them for the great ride, you know. And it will be my responsibility and the coaching staff responsibility to play longer into the season and get to the College World Series.